Good afternoon. Please be seated.
Introduction of visitors. Introduction of guests.
The Honourable Member for Fort Saskatchewan-Vegreville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Monsieur le Président, it's my pleasure to introduce to you and to all members of this Assembly, on behalf of the Minister for Municipal Affairs, a group of 75 brilliant grade 6 students from École Coloniale Estates in the beautiful town of Beaumont. École Coloniale Estates offers programming in both French, immersion, and English. The students are accompanied by their teacher, Monsieur Mario Lemay, and 5 parent assistants. I'll just go through them. Mrs. Kimberly App, Mrs. Barb Perlin, and chaperones Mrs. Linda Boyu, Ms. Addie Hobbins, and Mrs. Kim Tremblay. I would ask them to now rise and stand across both sides of the House and accept the warm traditional welcome of this Assembly.
Welcome. The Honourable Member for Battle River Wainwright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is my honour to introduce to you and through you and to all the members of the Assembly the outstanding students of the grade 6 students, teachers and parents of the Forestburg School in my beautiful riding of Battle River Wainwright. Forestburg, as you may know or may not know, is a coal mining community that produces electricity that Albertans depend upon through the Battle River Power Generating Station, Westmoreland Coal Mine, and ATCO Power. Among many other things, this is a community of farmers. The people here are hard-working, and they have awesome students and teachers. Would you please join me? Would you please rise as I call out your name? The teacher, Mrs. Laura Pfeffer, the chaperones, Brock Bartlett and Dion Burlock, and the students. So, please help me give the traditional warm welcome of the Assembly.
Welcome. Honourable members, are there any other school groups here today? Seeing and hearing none, the Honourable Member for Peace River.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to introduce to you and to the Assembly the members of the 2016-17 Alberta Electoral Boundaries Commission who are sitting in your gallery. This commission was established in October 2016 with the task of reviewing Alberta's 87 constituencies using a whole number of factors to make sure that they are fair and equitable. The commission had a series of hearings across the province, and now they're issuing their interim report. I had the honour of meeting them when they visited Peace River, and I saw firsthand the integrity and dedication that they all bring to this role. I'm very, very pleased to introduce the members of the commission. We have Honourable Justice Myra Bilby, Chair, the members Laurie Livingston, Gwen Day, Bruce MacLeod, and Jean Munn. I would ask that our guests rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of the Assembly.
Welcome and thank you. The Honourable Member for Calgary, Glenmore.
Mr. Speaker, it is my honor to rise in the House today to introduce to you and through you my mother Shaheen Asad, who lives in Toronto with my father Asad Kazim. She is visiting me from Toronto to celebrate the 2-year anniversary of our government after she and my father attended my swearing-in ceremony. I appreciate her indulgence in politics and would like to thank her for her blessings and support in my political journey. I would like to request her to rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of this Assembly.
Welcome, Mum. The Honourable Member for Chestermere, Rockyview.
Speaker, it is my absolute pleasure to introduce to you and through you to Teresa Jenkins, the Executive Director at Servants Anonymous, and Victoria Bailey, Research, Communications and Development Manager at Servants Anonymous. The goal of Servants Anonymous is for all women who are at risk or who have experienced sexual exploitation to know faith, hope and love, and be empowered to rebuild their lives. These incredible women have completely inspired me, and I've spoken about them nonstop since I've met them, and they are passionately committed to the women and children that they work for and providing women a lifeline to exit sexual exploitation and trafficking. I'm honored to introduce them in the House, and I would ask them to rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of the Assembly.
The Honourable Minister of Seniors and Housing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to rise today to introduce to you and through you to all members of the Assembly, Samantha Christie. Samantha is a communications practicum student working in seniors and housing. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science and is completing her public relations certificate at MacEwan University. Samantha, please rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of the Assembly.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Castle Downs.
Mr. Speaker, I'm honored today to rise and introduce to you and through you two amazing community leaders from the Al Rashid Mosque. Mr. Khalid Tarabain is the President, and Mr. Omar Najmuddin is the Executive Director for Al Rashid and the Chair of the Board of Directors of the Edmonton Islamic Academy, which is located in the beautiful constituency of Edmonton Castle Downs. I want to thank you for your years of dedication and support in the community and all across Alberta. I will speak more about this in my member statement this afternoon. I would ask my guests to now please rise and accept the traditional warm welcome of this Assembly.
Welcome. The Honourable Member for Fort Saskatchewan-Vegreville. Okay, the Honourable Member for Sherwood Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a couple of introductions today. It's a privilege to rise and recognize in this week where the House voted on Bill 205 to create and advocate for people with disabilities. To introduce to you and through you to all members of the Assembly, Teresa Pinkoski, which I believe is sitting right there. Teresa has demonstrated remarkable leadership through her impressive areas of volunteer work in the community, including Fort Edmonton Child Care Centre, the Strathcona County Library. Last year, she earned her Early Learning and Child Care Diploma at MacEwan. This year, Teresa is one of the two recipients of the Inspiration Award presented by the Canadian Down Syndrome Society for her accomplishments. She's there with her mother and with her friends, Christina Vincente, Amanda Riley, who's her support worker, May Carter, and Joe Carter. It's really a great pleasure for her to be recognized today, and I'd like us to ask everyone to stand up to receive the customary welcome of this Assembly.
Welcome.
And Mr. Speaker, it's also a privilege to rise and introduce to you and through you to all members of the Assembly Nathan Knipp. Nathan Knipp is a trustee with the Edmonton Public School Board, but he's also a Campus Connections worker who provided support to Teresa during her time at MacEwan University and was part of her success. I would like to ask Nathan to rise now and receive the traditional warm welcome of the Assembly.
The Honourable Minister of Community and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my honor and privilege to introduce to you and all the members of this Assembly 37 members of Global Pravasi Senior Society visiting from Calgary, many of whom are living in the most beautiful, diverse, and outstanding riding of Calgary-McCall. This society is dedicated to providing resources to seniors, identifying opportunities for them to be engaged and involved in society, and protecting seniors from financial or age-related abuse. I would not name all of them, but I would like to name the executive, and I would like them to rise as I call their name. Satpal Khushal is the president. Sabash Kalia, vice president of Global Pravasi, and also the president of Hindu Society of Calgary. Prem Bandari, secretary. Pritam Singh, treasurer. Sarbjit Randhawa, Baldev Singh Kang, Rajkumar Handa, Balwant Sharma. I thank them for their important work as advocates for senior and ask them to please rise. Ask them, all of them, to please rise and receive the traditional warm welcome.
Welcome. The Honourable Minister of Justice and Solicitor General.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to rise today to introduce to you and through you to all members of the Legislative Assembly, staff from the Property Rights Advocate's Office in Edmonton, Ms. Karen Johnson, Alberta's Acting Property Rights Advocate, and Ms. Angela Balick, the Public Engagement Officer. The office has been around for about 4.5 years, providing evidence-based, unbiased voice to government about the current and future property rights and laws and policies. The staff of the office listen to and document stories of Albertans and as they share their concerns about property rights, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask Karen and Angela to rise and receive the traditional warm welcome of the House.
Welcome. The Honourable Member for Edmonton Meadowlark. Are there any other guests to be introduced today, Honourable Members? Mr. Clerk.
Ministerial statements. Member statements.
The Honourable Member for Calgary, McKay, Nose Hill.
Women in Alberta continue to face discrimination, sexism in the workplace and in public, lower pay than men, violence in their homes, harassment on the street, and the low opinion of traditionalists, and it's time for it to stop. Earlier this week, we were all reminded of the urgent need to address this, not only in Alberta, but throughout the world, when a suicide bomber targeted young people, specifically young women, at a concert, killing 22. The United Nations has designated the 25th of every month Orange Day as part of the Unite campaign to end violence against women. Goal 5 from the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development identifies gender equality and the empowerment of women as key priorities and key to ending violence against women and girls in our world. Mr. Speaker, on this Orange Day, I am so proud to be part of a government that is taking action to promote the equality and empowerment of women. Ours is the first gender-balanced cabinet in Canada, and our province has the first Status of Women ministry, unlike the opposition, who have consistently acted against equality by voting against increased funding for women's shelters, voting against status of women grants for achieving women's equality, opposing minimum wage increases, which primarily affect women, making public statements encouraging violence against women, and heckling sexual abuse survivors in this House. We have lifted thousands of children out of poverty with the Alberta Child Benefit and the Family Employment Tax Credit. We've taken action on violence against women by funding women's shelters and passing a law to help women get out of leases trapping them in dangerous situations. How can you support equality for the women and girls in your life? Tell your daughters how smart they are. If someone discloses they've been sexually assaulted, believe them. Support capable women in your life running for office. Donate time and money to organizations that support women fleeing violence. Question the subtle ways that women are discriminated against every day, and if you want to continue to see the advancement of women, vote NDP in the next election.